Great. Welcome, everyone, to the Clinton Global Initiative deep dive on immersive education. So this is a topic that's particularly something of keen interest to myself. So I'm super excited to be part of this and have my esteemed colleagues as part of this as well. So just to give you some context, Verizon has been very interested in the area of education and technology for many, many years. As you can see behind Jonathan, my colleague Jonathan Lubis, behind him is actually the lab. Oh, he disappeared. All right. There is a lab where we actually do a lot of the work we do in schools, such as Jonathan's or Lubis's, as he goes by. And what it is we provide a space for students to be creative, to learn, and get excited about education. When we think about what is immersive education, for us, we actually put 5G in that school in Cleveland. That's what's really, thrilling, because that's actually the next wave for us. And many of you may have attended some of the other events as part of this as well, and you might have heard a little bit about 5G. So in terms of immersive education, what we find is that really comes to virtual and augmented reality for the most part. So let's put yourself about 5 years from now. So let's say it's 2021, we're talking about 2025, 2026. When we get there, what could potentially happen is, imagine the teacher tells you, all right, kids, hop on your glasses, and now we're going to take you to the surface of Mars. So we all look at the surface of Mars through our glasses in augmented reality, and we go, oh, that's really interesting. Then he or she goes, well, let's press a button on your glasses, and now let's actually be immersed in Mars, be on the landscape together as a class. So imagine that, right? Now, all of a sudden, I've gone from seeing maybe Mars in my living room to actually being in Mars with all of you as a class. So that is the ideal, right? That's something that we think is going to happen in the coming years. We're not there yet, but we are on the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution, and it's an exciting time. So that just gives you an example of immersive education. Now, when we think of immersive and interactive learning experiences and how they engage young people, especially those from underserved populations, if you think of a lot of kids nowadays, they're on gaming consoles, right? So if you want to get them off of gaming and put them in front of Zoom, for instance, it's a tough haul, right? You have to be as engaging as that, right? So the idea of immersive education is just to make tools that are that much more engaging for young people. So that's what our aim is. And then finally, some examples. So what you'll actually meet is the founder of Movers and Shakers, a colleague of mine, Idris Brewster. So he's going to be talking in a second, and he can talk about his application. But imagine, like I mentioned, the VR application or AR application. You can be fully immersed in virtual reality. You can be very engaged with augmented reality, and it's just superimposing those realities on your own. And that's kind of the idea of immersive education. And we had a great competition called the 5G EdTech Challenge, where we got a number of organizations to create solutions. And that was what Idris was chosen as part of that. So why don't I pause there, and let me actually, and Mary, that's a good question on VR and AR. So maybe as my colleagues come on, they can talk about that as well. And if I don't answer it in the end, we'll definitely cover your question. So let me pause and have my panelists introduce themselves. Jonathan Lubis, who goes by Lubis, right, Mr. Lubis? I'll hand it off to you. And the question for both of you, as you talk about your introduction, is how do you see the development of immersive education technology advancing academic achievement goals and increasing access to high-level education for underserved populations?
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Lubis, I've been in education for over 20 years in various roles. And now, in this role that I have and working in a school and being able to partner and work with Verizon and new developers like Idris and his team, really able to see how technology is the ultimate game changer when it comes to equity in education. Um, you know, technology is just stuff. It's just boxes and wires and things like that. But it's what you can do with that technology and what you can learn from it, is where the magic of technology really comes to light. So, you know, we see this in this new idea of immersive education coming around, and it is a new idea in education. Kind of thanks to the pandemic, we've all been forced to um, learn again what education is going to be like in the classroom. But this immersive education, it's different than what we're used to. It's different than that direct instruction, and it's not keeping content in silos anymore. But it's like anything else that's immersive. It's that free flowing of ideas, an exchange of learning between teachers and students and their environment. And that's where 5G is really going to come in and be that game changer to make immersive education reach the potential and the possibilities that it actually has.
Okay, great. And Idris, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and also kind of think about that question of the development of immersive education technology and how it advances academic achievement goals as well as increase access to high-level education for underserved populations?
Yeah, I would love to. First off, my name is Idris Brewster. Very excited to be here. I am the founder, along with my two partners, Glenn Kontov and Micah Milner, of Movers and Shakers. And so Movers and Shakers, we're an ed tech nonprofit, and we create augmented reality. Actually, our mission is to use augmented reality to write Black and Brown history into American curriculum. And so we think that right now, augmented reality, which is through your phone or an iPad, is the best means of being able to get an immersive education out to and the most accessible way to get immersive education out to everybody. And so how our application works is we can bring students, kind of give students the ability to time travel and go back into scenes throughout history and learn about Black and Brown figures that have usually been left out of traditional curriculums across America. And what this tool gives us is it gives us a way to really enact more of the students' senses and really get, like Phil said earlier, reach them where they are at right now with how they intake information. Because right now, when you're reading out of an actual physical textbook, or like the students are really being engaged in one or two different modalities, but inside an immersive education experience, they have to use touch, they have to read, they have to use their ears to listen, they have to use their eyes to actually view their surroundings like an actual environment. One of my favorite parts of the experience is that our experience in particular is that it gets students to get up and get around and use space. And so I think one of the best ways that, one of the best things about this technology is that it can engage different kinds of learners. And so not every student learns the same. And it really is flexible in the different mediums that you can bring in to really engage kids of all different kinds. And one last thing is it really gives students the power, and it gives them the agency over their own learning. I mean, we put the content in a platform and for them to engage with it, but we really minimize how we are moderating that experience and really allow them to make connections for themselves, discover different things in the experience for themselves. And so really putting the power in the hands of the students to really drive how they're learning, I think is a really, really good way to increase their engagement and overall just what they're gaining from the experience. I'll stop there.
And Idris, that's amazing. You know, as a developer, educators, we want to be able to hear that, coming from developers, that is what you're considering, that, looking at all of those individual learners and how they learn, because we've come such a long way in education from just like the singular learning model where everybody learns the same exact way. We're light years beyond that, but, we're still far from where we actually have to be. But, products like what you're developing, where it does meet the needs of that learner, you say this is for fifth graders. Well, fifth graders are not all the same. Fifth graders all learn differently. You've got, fifth learners that really excel in one area and other fifth graders that'll learn and excel in another area. As a developer and as, bringing products into the classroom, that's what's super important, is that it can meet that huge, wide expanse of that different learning, those different learning needs of our students.
Yeah, and so I appreciate both your responses. Now, I do see a couple questions coming in through the Q&A, and I thought I'd address those right away, and not save them necessarily for the end, because they're really good questions, right? They're really around how do some of these immersive technologies fit into communities that lack the basic resources? One person asked about where even electricity might be scarce. How do we scale things like AR and VR? How do we handle that in lower SES areas or just a general audience? And I just wanted to kind of talk about it from our side, and then maybe Lubis, you can kind of fill in there in terms of that school, and then Idris on your own side. In terms of Verizon, we are focused for our schools, our high free reduced lunch schools. So generally the percentage of free reduced lunch in our schools is close to 85% nationally in over 350 schools. So for us, a lot of it really is actually putting in the technology such that Lubis has in Cleveland in those schools which need it. And that we try to find technology built by founders like Idris who understand the needs, and then also make those products usable by those young people. And later this year, we're going to have a platform coming out where we're actually going to address some of that by offering opportunities for teachers around the country, general teachers, to be able to access some of these AR and VR tools. And stay tuned, that's going to become more scalable over time as we build more applications on more devices such as Android, where more students can access them. But Lubis, Idris, if you guys want to tackle that question.
Yeah, I mean, I can just quickly go. I mean, time is key. I mean, I think the work that we're doing right here is the needle that has to happen to push us forward to where we can have all of this, technology in all classrooms. And I think we at Movers and Shakers are always thinking about what is the lowest accessibility point that we need to hit, and that's what we're going for. And so that's why we are again in augmented reality, and why I think that augmented reality, in my opinion, might be a better short-term move than virtual reality in terms of accessibility to these products and these experiences. Because while not everyone might have an expensive computer and a VR set to run, people have the phone and device. And so I think that, and also we are thinking about public spaces as an opportunity in the future to potentially have gatherings around these technologies that have their roots in either historical areas that matter in the local town, or just important locations for the town in general, where students can go and as a field trip and engage with technology outside the classroom. So these are ways that we're thinking about it, but it's a problem that's going to take time and effort.
And I firmly believe that if 5G had been around 5 years ago, and we just hit this pandemic last year as we did, the learning gap would have been a lot smaller that we all would have had to cross as adult learners, as child learners, because we all became learners a year ago. We all became students again. We all had to learn how to do something in our lives over again. But if 5G had not been just in its infancy or founding stages, but if we had already had it established, I believe we would have been a lot, this jump would have been a lot easier for us. I know in education it would have. Our schools that had the Verizon program, that had the technology, that had the one-to-one for our students and for our teachers, we were much better poised to make this jump early on last year at this time, rather than having to, wait it out and figure out a plan over the summer. So I know that the benefit of that, that directly impacted, students that we work with at our schools and the others across the country as well. But the timing is, like Idris said, it's absolutely critical. And, now we have to build on this momentum that we've got right now. Just because we're we're trying to get back to normal doesn't mean that we can lay off the gas and kind of rest back and not use this momentum we've gained.
Excellent. So I have a question for both of you. If both of you could think about what barriers to technology access have you witnessed, and how can participants in this program, meaning CGIU, strive to develop technology that increases equity and does not further inequality?
Barrier access, it is, again, we were talking about, just areas that have low latency or do not have fast access, that are constantly getting downgraded in their areas just due to speeds and congestion. We are seeing that with our students being home. We do a good job of supplying technology for our students. I know that other school districts weren't as fortunate to be able to do that, but that is a barrier as well. If it wasn't for the programs that we have in place, we would have been stuck with being able to provide the kind of technology, like Idris is saying, even just for that basic access to make sure that our kids stay connected. So those are definitely some of the barriers that I've seen. But as far as barriers of new things that are coming in and being developed in school, barriers of just not being able to meet the needs of the teachers in the content that they're trying to deliver.
Idris, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I was on mute. I mean, the biggest barrier is hardware, like hardware. I think the software is existing and it's like on most devices, but having the software in the schools is the barrier that we've come across, and it's a hard problem to solve, especially for one company. And I think larger programs coming in, having iPads at a lot of schools is extremely helpful. But I also think that another barrier that I've seen that one of the main reasons why I'm really appreciative of programs like Verizon 5G EdTech Challenge is that it allowed creators like my team and I to have the resources necessary to put our minds toward this design challenge and problem of like bringing more equity to the education space. And if we had more programs like that allowed small teams like us to really push the pedal forward and apply all of our pressure to solving this exact problem, and if there could be more movers and shakers that are doing that, then I think that, and just more opportunities in general, then I think we would see a lot more progress faster. So I'm calling on more funding in this area of ed tech would be very, very helpful for small indie developers and teams to be able to solve these problems.
And the collaboration aspect of it, Idris, I know has been great. I mean,
yeah.
for the time that I've known you, to think that we come from two totally different, parts of profession and what we do, but when we come together and we have that common goal of, trying to bring this in and make it best for our students, for the kids that it serves, I know that that's been helpful for us as educators and hopefully for you as the developers to really get the idea of what it is that the teachers need in order to be able to use this stuff with their kids. Because I'll tell you, nobody knows their students better than those teachers. That is what teachers, they pride themselves on doing. And so if you hear from the teachers that this is what our students need, then you can design a great program or product that's going to fit that need.
Yeah, I have to echo that. I mean, the access that we've been the collaboration here has allowed us, it's cut down a lot of the steps that we've had to take to figure out what's really necessary. And we built something, bring it back, get feedback's not working, it's not how we needed it to be. We just have, it helps us get our direction better and just build better products faster, be able to workshop and experiment with people like Lubis and the 5G labs. I think that has been priceless for us.
And that's a great point both of you are making for all the audience members, because what I want to reiterate to CGIU members is you don't have to have all the answers. You need to just have a great idea. And if you can think through your idea really well and rise to the top where you get chosen, you get to work with Idris and folks like Lubis who can help you craft that solution that was maybe your first draft and make it even better for young people. So, don't let that hold you back. Another question that's come through the Q&A, which again, both of you could take a look at and feel free to answer, but I'll just give you my take on it. The question is from Rafael Ajima. Are there some security or human rights concerns we need to consider as we design AR and VR? And just for everyone on the call, as I mentioned, we have a platform coming out. As part of that platform, Idris's application will be on the platform. So we've been working with Idris to make sure that when a student or teacher accesses that app, that their privacy and their security is taken into account. And so there are a lot of laws around that, COPPA and FERPA and a number of laws, especially around young people. And then on Lubis's side, Lubis actually is one of the ones that actually looks at a lot of these applications and approves whether they sit on his school's computers or not, and actually whitelists and blacklists things. So maybe both of you can just kind of, give your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, security, human rights concerns, always, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about students, we're talking about children. That's absolutely a concern. And so it is with everything else, good vetting, good understanding of what the program is offering, understanding, what the end product is that teachers are going to see students be able to produce, helps that understanding. In my job, it requires you to read through and understand just exactly how information is being shared. And like Phil had said, COPPA and FERPA, those are my guidebooks. So make sure you understand those, because if you're bringing those into any kind of public education setting, has to meet those guidelines in order for us to be allowed to put that into students' hands. But yeah, it's always a concern, absolutely, and that's student safety is number one priority.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I mean, as Lubis said, student safety is number one, and I mean, through this process, we've learned about COPPA and FERPA laws, and as that is our guidebook as well. So I mean, students and student safety and their data is the number one most important thing that we're trying to navigate properly. So but there's always concerns with technology, especially a visual camera aided technology like augmented reality. Great.
And Lubis, there's a follow-up question on that. What is the guidelines book called?
Yeah, so I just say that it's my book that I follow, but COPPA is the Comprehensive Online or Children's Online Privacy Policy Act, and you can find that at government websites. And FERPA is Freedom of Educational Rights Privacy Act. So that's as far as educators, as far as what information can be shared with people that are outside of a educational community.
Great. And the last question I see up there is, when does the platform launch? Unfortunately, it's not going to be out of the US in 21. That's probably international launch will be a little later if you're in London, Camille, but it is going to be in the US later this year. So Q3, more like August, September, the site will be launched. Let me see. Let me get to another question here for you, Lubis, and feel free as well, Idris. But what impact do you think the recent shifts to remote learning will have on learning long term?
A lot, and I'm hopeful. This is totally redefined what education pedagogy really is going to be moving forward. So I'm very hopeful that we're going to find a good marriage of the online and in-person learning once we actually do get back to being face-to-face. And it's important too to understand that a lot of the things that teachers went to and depended upon during this distance learning time, that they're still accessible to be used in the classroom as well. So Idris, as you're developing new products and things like that, thinking what could we use if we were right next to our students, and what could we use if we had to be separated? Because who knows if we have to be separated again, in the future for any particular reason. So there's a lot to be learned. There's a lot that's going to be learned. It'll be great to see what shakes out after 10 years to figure out the best lessons that came from it. But I'm hopeful that those the positive things that we have uh, been able to glean from it, that we've all learned how to do something new again, and that we can all go back and learn new tricks. I hope that that's going to continue on across the board.
Excellent. So I'll just wrap up a couple of these questions that are coming in. So as I see them come in, the initiative in Cleveland in particular, the students in Lubis' school actually have access to iPads, so they're very fortunate. As you mentioned, they're part of the Verizon program. But we're looking for solutions for all students. So a good percentage of kids do have access to Android devices. And to someone's question earlier, potentially the app could be downloaded and you don't need as much data to do that, and then they could use it offline. So there are some solutions like that. Ryan, you have a interest in fixing higher education. I'm right there with you. So the challenge is open to education software solutions in general. And I think if you can find a use case that works in higher ed, it's translatable to K-12 very often as well without too much rigmarole. So the next question I have is for you, Idris. You've been someone who's actually developed something that was used in school. And then you also, as you mentioned, you have another application which was used out of school. A key component of immersive education is really infusing both school time and out of school time with meaningful educational experiences. Can you share how you think differently when developing technology solutions for each of those two environments?
Yeah, I think that I think it's very similar. I mean, for us, when we're developing stuff for in school, our guidebook, our like guiding light is the Common Core curriculum, making sure that it's usable in that classroom setting. And so I think the one that we built, Unsung, we built it for a group play with amongst 4 people. And so just the user and the environment that we're creating for is different, but the actual experiences I don't think they differ that much. I think the goal is the same, is education. But I think with the other app that we released, it was a much wider audience. And so for that, we had to come up with a more flexible solution, and that could not just target a very specific age group. We needed to see how this could be used amongst everyone. And so it was more of like a general education tool. So I think it just the environment and the user for us is different, and that's kind of what we look for with when we're designing things. So that's basically the difference for us.
Great. And there is an open question about what considerations are being made in AR, VR for students with disabilities. So it is a really good question, and it is something that we're trying to tackle on an application basis. So we are talking to all our developers and trying to find out what accommodations can be made, right? That we know that with VR, if certain things are noted in certain colors and in certain ways, people with different vision abilities can actually, access it differently, and the same in AR. So I wouldn't say we have all the solutions with that, but it will be a work in progress, and that may be something that you could tackle as part of this challenge as well. As we're kind of wrapping up here, getting towards the end, let me ask both of you kind of a higher level question, just for everyone on the audience here, in the audience, what they might be thinking about as they're designing. Where do you see the largest opportunity for immersive educational technology in the future? I think, Lubis, you kind of mentioned if we had 5G today, but if everyone on this call was trying to develop something, what is that North Star that they may want to look at?
One of the questions that I'm always answering for teachers, my science teachers, especially during this distance learning, it's, how can we do science experiments? How can we do these learning labs distanced using the technology we have without getting all of the other stuff? So, you know, how to create a really authentic learning experience of trying a science experiment through just the base technology that we have, whether it's a Android phone or an iPad. So I think that that would be really key to look at, you know, for new developers coming on. I know that it was a big a desire for many of my teachers over this distance learning, because we couldn't get beakers and glass and chemicals and things like that to all of our students to try these experiments at home. So that would be something I would consider.
So for me, it's about making flexible solutions. I mean, the classroom is a very flexible place that can have different needs at different times. And so I think thinking more, when designing these ed tech solutions, especially immersive ed tech solutions, we really need to just think about how it's going to be used within the classrooms and making it as user friendly for the teachers. And so making something that teacher can just bring in, drop into the classroom and use. I think that that's a struggle that a lot of technology developers have when trying to create applications for the classroom. And so really just having an honest assessment of what the technological landscape is in the schools and adapting it to that. But at the other end, people can come in and provide hardware solutions or provide more platforms for these experiences to be more accessible, like Verizon is doing. And so there's a plethora of available things to do, and I'm looking forward to the future.
And one other thing I just want to add in there too is when you are considering what you're bringing into the schools, remember, you know, you need to also vary the level of understanding for the teachers. Not all teachers come in with as much digital literacy as others. So if you really want to make it accessible, you have to make it accessible for a wide range of student learning as well as teacher ability as well.
Okay, well, on that note, I want to thank my esteemed colleagues, Jonathan Lubis and Idris Brewster, for your time today, for joining me on this panel. And to all the audience members, we appreciate you taking the time and really looking into this, because this is something that we're all passionate about, and we look forward to your solutions. And tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern, I'll be hosting another session where I can dive deeper into questions that you might have. So I invite you to join me there. But in the meanwhile, have a great evening, and thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.